Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Okay, you stay down there, Suki. Good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl.
Is she gonna listen?
No, she don't listen.
We never do.
She listens when I say TREATS.
Boobies!
All right. Hi.
Hello, and welcome to
Boobies.
Boobies. Boobies.
That's
right.
right.
We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin,
And I'm Joshua.
and today we're here to talk to you about
What are we talking about? Spooky Ookie?
little dead babies.
Little
and pets.
zombie toddler.
Zombie toddler.
Zombie toddlers and tiaras. And whatever that show is. Toddlers and tiaras,
Yeah, toddlers
right?
and tiaras, yeah.
Zombie toddlers. And little, what are the scalpels? Scalpels.
Yep. And little zombie cats
Yes.
and zombie dogs.
And the movie that is Pet Sematary.
Spelled incorrectly.
Very incorrectly. My phone kept wanting to, correct it. So there was that.
Yeah, mine was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Just let me do it. Just let me type it out."
It's a 1989 horror film, and it is based on Stephen King's novel of the same name, Pet Sematary, which he also spelled. I wonder why. We'll have to look it up why he chose to spell it that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I love how whenever you look up Stephen King, it says it has under his name. Oh, never mind. Well, because in the movie, he's the minister in the movie. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I was about to say, why is it?
He's
called
in all
Stephen
of his
King?
movies.
Yeah, no, he is. He's very Stan Lee about that. But that's so funny. Michael Hughes, the guy who plays the kid, he
Mhm.
looks so different now. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, he's an
What?
adult, not a baby no more.
I know, but like that's crazy. Funny how people age. All right, yeah. And so it also stars Fred Gwynne, Dale Midkiff, Denise Crosby. We've got Brad Greenquist as Victor Pascal, a ghost, and an assortment of other people as well. Yeah.
You say Dale Midkiff?
Yeah. Sure did.
Okay.
Plays the main protagonist, I would call it. Yeah.
Yeah, plays Doc.
Lewis Creed.
I call him Doc.
Or Doc. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we can call him Doc. Because that's what he is, you guys. His profession is a doctor. He and his family just moved to where are they again? It's like
Somewhere in Boston.
Is it?
Area.
Okay, yeah. They're from Chicago, and they moved to, a more like, that quaint life away from the city.
I know, at least their planes were landing in the Boston area. So then they
Okay.
had to drive away out of Boston, but somewhere out there.
But yeah.
Directed by, you say Mary Lambert?
Mary Lambert. No, I didn't, but yes. Directed by Mary Lambert.
Directed by her. Basically, the reason it's spelled cemetery is just because it's was some local kids who founded the cemetery, adopted it as their own and cared for it, and made the sign by sounding out cemetery phonetically and spelling it wrong.
That totally
So
makes
it's
sense.
just basically a use of realism, which is, a practice in writing to accurately represent real life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that makes total sense if kids were the ones who came up with it, you know. They don't necessarily have all the skills to spell correctly. Yeah. They're in Ludlow, Maine. That's where they moved to. Ludlow,
Ludlow,
Maine.
Maine.
So they are up north.
They had to
And
travel quite a bit.
we basically start the movie off with a lot of like music and like haunting voices type of what's that type of genre? I don't know. It's a lot of background music with like, the ooh ahs, and we're over a cemetery and
Yeah,
it's basically
hunting
showing us
theme.
it looks like
And you're
there's a whole
getting
cert
voiceovers of people laying their pets to rest, like
yeah.
them saying like, "Oh, Spot, I loved you so much. You were such a good doggy. I'll see you in heaven, yeah?" I
Mhm.
don't think it was Spot that got laid to rest. Spot's Judd's dog, but
But something like that along the
something
lines.
like that,
And
yeah.
we have like what looks to be, of course, like this like circle thing, and it looks like cultish, satanic, almost something ritualistic. I don't want to say satanic, but I did. And then we have a semi truck just zoom after we get the opening
The little
credit
montage.
scene montage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the
it's a montage for
credits.
sure.
The
And yeah,
real big yeah, it's a semi truck, like you said, and it's driving way too fast for that suburban road.
yes, definitely zooming by. And we are kind of foreshadowing here because it's gonna be, I guess that's the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
Essentially, the road, the trucks. Because without that being there, none of this would be happening. But yeah. I wonder if also too, because we learn later all this stuff with like how it was, an Indian burial ground and all this stuff, like ritualistic practices were happening in the past. Like because of that, like some voodoo nature, not voodoo, but some like other wild force like
Yeah, it's supposed to be
created
a
the road there.
Wendigo.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
It's yeah, in the book and stuff, there's mention of a Wendy boy, and,
Okay.
you're not supposed to say their name too much, so I'm
A
gonna
Wendigo?
refrain from saying yeah.
Oh, superstition. Got it.
Yeah, um, so I'm gonna refer to them as Wendy boys, as Two
Okay.
Girls, One Ghost does.
Uh,
But the loon, whenever the loon cries, that's supposed to be a nod to that
Oh, okay.
superstition. And then at one other point, I think Pascal says something that
Is it along
kind
the
of leans
lines?
towards, yeah, it being a windy boy. So that it is supposed to be have a little bit of lore of that tied in.
They're like tipping their hat to it. Or it's like a touch and
Yeah,
a nod. Yeah.
yeah. Because the book
Um,
obviously can get a lot more in depth, and Stephen King's writing is really very
mhm.
in depth. It's been so long since I've read the book now because it was one of the first like real novels I think I read ever.
Mhm.
Great introduction into that, followed shortly by the Harry Potter books and
Oh
Twilight
yeah.
series, but
Yeah.
and then also Lord of the Rings. But
Maybe that's where I messed
yeah,
up when I was younger. I just didn't pick the right interesting books.
yeah,
You know
you
what I
should.
mean?
Stephen King's writing is a little hard to get through, I will say,
Is he
but it's really good. It's very drawn out.
oh, okay. Is he talking like riddles? Or he's just very descriptive?
Um, Very descriptive, and
Mhm.
he's got really long sentences, and but yeah, super descriptive.
Mhm.
So he does building basically,
Yeah.
and so it's a little bit more to get into. It's not a like casual. I'm going to pick this up and read this book. It's a like commitment.
Oh, he has so many books too. I wonder how many books Mr. King has.
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking up
would
right now.
be curious to know as well. So let me know.
Um, but yeah, we
Um,
have the family moving into this new house, right?
yeah, and they didn't buy their house together, just like in the canal.
Oh yeah,
in the canal,
the
um,
canal.
because remember how the guy, like, bought the house and then the wife was like, "Oh, I
What the
love
fuck?
it."
Yeah,
Yeah, and this was exactly the same thing. He was like, "What do you think?" And she's like, "I love it." And I was like, "What is with these couples not buying their house together?"
yeah. I
I
feel
would
like that's
be
a
pissed
thing.
if I wasn't included in on that conversation.
It might just be the times though from back in the day, I guess. But
Yeah, I
also the
guess.
Kano is not back in the day, so but
Also
yeah,
deals
yeah.
with dead children.
So he has interesting 65 published novels. There are
Hmm,
7 that are under a different like pen name, which is Richard Bachman. He has written over 200 short stories.
yeah, he's got a lot in the tall grass.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
We've
there's a
covered all
lot
these
going on
films,
there.
go watch them.
We have. And so yeah, we are excuse me. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The family. They moved in. And you said she obviously didn't see the house before, but he's like, okay, good, because I bought it. And so she's like, okay, yay. I guess it's
Yay.
ours. And
It is a
then
beautiful house.
oh yeah, it's a pretty grand house, pretty big house. Also, um, kind of just weird that it's so close to the road as well.
Yeah.
For how big it is. But yes, and then we have the little baby, Gage, right?
Gage is the little baby, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
And
have the
then
whole family.
Ellie goes to the rope, tire swing.
But then hurts her leg.
Yeah, because the rope swing tire swing breaks and lands on her leg, so she scrapes her knee, and everyone comes running because obviously if your child's screaming, you come running, but they forgot
hmm
one little thing,
Gage
Gage, yep,
and the road.
and so Gage starts, yeah, walking a little bit too close to the road, and they notice a little too late. I couldn't remember, it's been so long since I've seen this movie too. I was like, "Oh," I
Is it gonna
knew
happen this
knew
soon?
that he gets hit by a car, but I was like, "Damn, already?" And
What
then,
an opening.
yeah, I was like, "This gets dark real fast." And then, nope, Mr. Crandall comes in and swoops in at the last second, picks him up, and saves him, thank God.
Saves the day. Yeah, really does because that could have been a mess, which it does become later. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have our introduction to our neighbor who is what's his name again? Judd? Judd.
Judd,
Mr.
yeah.
Judd.
I didn't get his first name for the longest time, so I
Okay,
call him Crandall in my notes, but then
got
I
it.
also switch in between Judd as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like the name Judd.
Judd with 1 D, only 1.
1D. Yeah, that's what my closed captioning said.
And so
My
we
phone
yeah, mine
also didn't
too.
like that. It was
My phone
like,
didn't like that either. It kept trying to correct it, and I'm like, "But
"Yeah,
that's his name."
that's how it's
Um,
spelled."
Although I guess it wouldn't matter, would it? And so yeah, Judd thankfully comes in and Scoop saves the day, and then that's whenever we kind of get an introduction of how like the road is so fast, not fast, but so close to their house, and all these trucks drive like I don't know, I guess. Also, since when do trucks drive that fast anyways on a road like that? Like what?
Yeah, I know.
They're like going 90,
They were like little race cars,
zooming.
just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
zooming.
Speed demons. And so that's whenever we have oh Mr. Churchill. Are we introduced to Churchill?
Yeah, I think Church comes
Scares
in
dad
to
at some point.
scares the dad, yeah. Um, and, oh, yeah, because Mr. Crandall Ellie saw the path and was like, "Oh, look, mom, there's a path." And then,
hmm
they were asking Mr. Crandall about the path, and he was
Like
like,
where does it
"Oh,
go?
that's a funny story. I'll have to tell you about that later, and we'll all take a walk down there," kinda thing.
Yeah.
And, so then the dad goes out at night, Churchill scares him by jumping
hmm
down the tree,
Oh, that's right.
and
Yeah, because the dad is kind of like there's like some ominous feeling outside. Sorry.
yeah, it's like
Uh-huh.
they're almost being drawn to the
hmm
cemetery.
Yes.
And then he sees that Mr. Crandall's on his porch, so he goes over to Mr. Crandall and says, like, "What's up?"
What's
And
up?
they
Let's have a
share a beer
beer.
together. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's a Budweiser man. That product placement.
And they just get to talking as neighbors would. They're getting to know each other a little bit. Um, and this is where we talk about,
They
well, I
cheers to
guess
one another's bones.
to each other's what?
Bones.
Oh,
They were like,
bones.
"Cheers to your bones," and then he was
Yeah.
like, "Cheers to yours," and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Judd's already really weird. I thought you said moans at first. I was like,
Cheer to
what?
each other's moans. That's a good
Yeah.
moan you got there, buddy.
But that's a good one, bro. Could you imagine from Judd? And then we have Judd then bringing up Churchill, right? Because he's warning him, like, hey, be careful with that cat because a lot of animals don't live around here. They don't make it.
That's where that
Um,
path leads to.
yep, exactly. Yeah. And
Leads
we
to the pet cemetery. Roll credits. Movie's done.
that's it. That's done. And
Short story.
we're gonna give it 10 boos.
10 boos. We got rid of
10
our
out of
normal
5.
rating to make a special place for this one. No. But yeah, he says it's the road and all them damn trucks going up and down it uh that there's so many pets that die around here, mainly
Yeah.
cats and dogs and stuff, he says. But yeah, little animals getting killed by all this. You ever had a pet get hit by a car?
The way I couldn't not smile, and that's so bad because I've I've
I'm
never
smiling too, and I've had a pet get hit by a car.
I've
She was pregnant. It was so sad. Poor
I'd
baby. Her name
rather
was
I'd
Pink.
rather I'd rather not discuss this while we are being recorded. Just kidding. I can't say that I've ever had my animal run over, but unfortunately, I have been the person to run over someone's animal.
Oh,
Not
no.
on purpose, obviously, but on
Obviously.
accident. Yeah, yeah. So that's why I laughed because I'm like, oh, that's so. Oh, my bad. And I'm so sorry,
So
Caitlin. It was a
awkward.
kid. It was a cat. It was
No.
yeah, it was a cat. Yeah, it was a cat.
No.
It was my friend from high school's cat. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're still friends. I'm in her wedding actually. But uh yeah, I hit the cat.
Mm, RIP.
Poor cat.
Yeah.
Um but things happen and why was her cat not why was her cat on the streets? That's a conversation for another day I'll have to have with her because I kind of feel
Yeah,
like
that's what whenever the road was getting, like, so, like, we realized it was as dangerous as it was,
mhm,
I just kept thinking to myself, "Just keep the cat inside.
yeah,
Don't don't let it outside." The poor you know what's gonna happen, like, neutering the cat isn't gonna actually keep it from wandering,
yeah.
especially if you do it too late too, and that was
Oh
a
yeah,
grown
yeah, yeah.
cat, and
That
so
honestly, that didn't make any sense to be honest. I thought like, okay, I mean, I get that they wandered to like look for mates, but like they're also like creatures, so like they're gonna get curious and they're gonna whatever about anything. Like that was just kind of like that didn't make sense to me. But
yeah,
yes,
me
yeah,
neither,
that
but
that does come up. But yeah, unfortunately, I've hit a cat. I don't think I've hit anything else. I don't think, but I've been hit by things. We know
I
that
hit
for
a
a fact.
skunk once.
Oh, did you leave a smell?
Yes, for, like, a week.
That's so bad. I'm
It
sorry.
was
I
stinky. It
hate the
came out
smell
of
of skunk.
nowhere. It was like I was leaving to go to band practice at, like, 5 AM because it was, like, 30 miles
Yeah, yeah.
away, and so I was getting up really early for a 7 AM band practice, and it just, like, came out of nowhere, and I was like, "No!" I swerved and everything. Thank
Are you
goodness no one else
saying
was on the road,
are
but
you
I
saying
still
that
hit
it
it.
unalived itself? Is that
It
what
did.
you're suggesting right now, live on this podcast?
Yeah, the skunk said, "I can't take it no more."
I'm gonna jump right in front of this Prius.
Yep. At the time, it was my Ford Taurus.
Oh, okay.
That
R.I.P.
thing was a mess. That car was a piece of shit. Anyways,
Uh,
but they cheers to one another's bones, and they're talking, and then it flashes to the next day, and we're with Missy and the doc. Lewis is his name?
yes. Yes, the dad.
Lewis and, Missy are in there, and
She's
then
weird.
she's on her way out, and she makes the weirdest little comment to, Rachel, and she just says something like, "Oh, I wish I woulda married a doctor," and then she says, "But hell, I'm not married anyways," and I don't know, just the way she delivered it, it was so fucking weird, and I was like,
It was very
"Why?"
weird. I thought that it was giving, "Y'all need to be careful with Missy because she gonna kill y'all. She's
Yeah, or
gonna try
she's
to
gonna
take your
kill your
husband."
husband. Yeah,
Yeah, uh-huh.
exactly. I was like, "Okay, Missy, a little weird, but alright."
Maybe
And
she's just
then
not
they're
used to people, you know?
yeah, a little just awkward. Um, and then yeah, me too. Um, but then they start heading down to the cemetery. They're all packed up, like, looking like they're ready to go on a little hike, and
Yes.
Ellie's leading the way. She's super excited.
Ellie is such a go-getter. And then I was watching this with Jazz, and until the middle of the movie, she was like, kept calling she I was so confused for a minute because I thought she was talking about Gage, but she kept using the reference like he, and I'm like, who are you talking to at this point? And then she's like, that the little boy, and I'm like, that is a girl. The whole movie, she thought
I
Ellie was a
thought
boy
Ellie I thought Ellie was a boy for the first
at
little
the
bit too,
beginning.
until
Yeah,
Crandall said, "Well, how are you, little miss?" or something like that, and I
yeah,
was like, "Oh, Ellie's a girl."
that's a little
Ellie's a
girl.
pretty androgynous name. I feel like it could go either way.
Ellie, really? I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever heard a boy named Ellie.
Like,
What was
maybe his name I don't know.
Ellerson?
Yeah, and he went
Eleno.
by Ellie.
But yes, sorry, the gender or whatever preference of little Ellie shouldn't matter at all. Anyways, she's a human being.
It's
Um,
right.
um,
But,
but yeah, she's
yeah,
leading the
Ellie
pack.
is leading the pack. She's excited. She's like, "Woohoo!" running down.
Hmm.
Then they get to the cemetery, and this is where mom points out, like, it's misspelled, but that's what it says. Sadie,
They're literally all like, look at Kira's nose.
Kira,
She's under the desk. Like,
what are
they're
you
just
doing, Kira?
all around. I feel like I'm
Yeah, I
surrounded.
saw
I'm so sorry.
Theo's little head
Anyways, yeah. So they're
back behind you.
getting shown the cemetery, and we have all these like makeshift, amateur tombstones,
Yeah,
headstones things for the doggies and cats, and I guess whatever animals get ran over there.
little crosses and stuff
Hmm.
that have engravings on them. And Mr. Crandall points out, like, this is where we buried my dog Spot in 1924 when I was just a
24.
little kid. Yeah.
Damn, that's a long time ago. But yes,
Yeah.
the movie was also in the 80s, so that makes sense. Um, But, yeah, and Mr. Judd is also trying to kind of basically give Ellie a little lesson of like death, essentially, and that like she needs to learn that this place is more of a place of rest for the dead. Um, kind of
Yeah. He
basically
calls it
trying
a
to
place
create,
of speaking too.
yeah. Oh yeah, because the dead speak, is what he says. But he's like, oh, don't let me scare you. They don't speak like that. Their tombstones speak. So essentially, it's like everybody has a story to tell. Essentially,
Yeah.
everybody's lived a life, yeah. And then we could is also at this point are talking, conversation between is there conversation between mom and dad about how like she doesn't like we can tell there's a vibe she's giving off of like having a problem with like death or cemeteries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
She definitely does have something weird surrounding death. We find out more later too, whenever uh we hear dad and Ellie talking about Missy and if she went to heaven or not and
Hmm.
stuff. We get a little bit better explanation as to why she has this weirdness surrounding death.
Yeah.
Um But then they just are hanging out in the cemetery, and then they head back home. And Ellie, I just wrote, Ellie is wise beyond her years. She was saying something that I was like, damn.
Damn.
Oh yeah, she was talking about church, and she was like her
What
dad
did
was
she say?
saying, church, you'll probably have church until you're in high school.
Oh
And
yeah.
he was like, that's such a long time. And she said, it feels like such a short time to me. And I was like, you're right. Cat's times are too short.
Oh, that
Church
hit
is such a
you.
good kitty.
That hit you
Yeah,
home, didn't it? Yeah.
it did.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
oh, I feel you, little Ellie. But
Yeah.
Ellie really is wise beyond her years. Like,
Just a
she's
smart
also has
cookie.
prophetic dreams.
Oh, that's true. She be like everything that's happening, and then she gets gaslit into that it's not happening.
Yeah.
Um, and
Poor
so
thing's in hysterics.
mm-hmm. And then he's trying to basically what she's at this point because they're talking about aren't they talking about taking what's church to the vet
Yeah, to get
to
neutered.
get neutered. And then he's trying to comfort her and make sure tell her that nothing's gonna happen to him. And then it's the next day, and we're getting ready to leave and head out, and then he's gonna take the cat to the vet. It's this little cute little case
Little
thing.
carrier. Yeah.
That the kitty's going in. And then he ends up, I guess, dropping it off at the vet at some point. But then he ends up also going to work, and now he's at work, and it's a
Can we talk about how Gage, the little asshole, threw stuff at church too? Threw food
oh,
at his sister and then threw stuff at church. And I was like, Gage, you little asshole. You
but
better
Gay's
stop
treated
doing
like
that.
such a good like the golden child.
Yeah, he is. I was like,
Uh-huh.
they did not reprimand him at all for throwing a fistful of mashed
No.
potatoes at his
He's a
sister. I don't know
baby.
if they
And
were
then he's
mashed
so
potatoes,
cute.
but they looked like it.
When the dad was saying bye, and
He
he's
was
like,
so
I
cute.
I give you kiss. Goodbye,
Yeah.
daddy.
Bye, Daddy. Yeah,
Love you.
he was stinking cute.
He was
But I
3
was
years
like,
old.
still a little asshole.
Like, how can a child act at 3 years old? I look at my niece and nephews and how they were at 3 years old. I'm like, there ain't no way these kids would be like telling like spitting back out lines or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Because he was surprisingly vocal.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he had quite a few lines, and then playing a bad version of himself too.
Dual, like the duplicity. He's really
Yeah.
good. He's fake. He's AI. He was AI before it was ever even a thing.
Yep.
And so we end up we're all that happened, and then we're
Oh
at
yeah,
work,
he's
and
at work.
it's a pretty I don't know if this happens all the time, but I guess someone else got hit by a truck, and he's a high school student, right? These are all high school students. Although he doesn't look like high school
Oh, was
student.
it
I
high
don't know.
school or college? I think
Was
they
it
were in
college?
college.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense for the age.
I think he was a doctor at the university, like
Got
a
it.
professor kind of thing.
Oh, okay, okay. And so this guy gets brought in, he got hit by a truck, and they're all like, OMG, and they're trying to save him. But so we have him with the dude on the table in this room, and I guess he's trying to take a look at him because he's not dead, right?
Um, at
And then
first, when they bring him
reanimated?
in, yeah, he's not dead at first.
Okay.
And then I think he does die, or at least,
He dies on the
yeah,
table,
he dies on the table.
and then
And
that's when he's just sitting there kind of like contemplating in front of him, like looking at his body. And then that's
yeah,
whenever the dude like comes back to life, essentially.
yeah. And I'm not
Mhm.
sure if that was like a dream state or his ghost, or if he really did come back to life for a hot second, because this is not the last time we'll see Pascal, is
Not
his
at all.
name. It's his
Hmm.
last name. And you can hear one of the students mutter, like, it's Pascal, whenever they're like, who is it? And stuff like that.
Hmm.
But also, these are some pretty good practical effects with the side of his head being smashed open.
Oh
It
yeah, yeah,
looked
yeah.
gnarly. I was like, what? It
Yeah,
looked good.
throughout the whole movie, actually, it's pretty good
Yeah.
practical effects. Yeah,
I was impressed. Color
everything to
me
me
impressed.
was pretty great, except the glowing eyes of the cat.
Oh, yeah.
That was the only thing for me. Also, I was like,
But
why does
cats'
nobody
eyes
else
do
know?
glow like that whenever there's, like,
I guess that's true.
at night
I,
light put into them.
that's true.
Like,
I guess
cause
I didn't
the
think about it like
cats,
that.
their eyes at nighttime,
They have like
they'll
binoculars, right?
yeah,
Night
they
vision.
turn, like, green.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not around. I need to be around more cats. Hmm. That's sad. I
You
just got
should be,
sad.
they're really good.
I'm not around a lot enough cats.
You come pet
And
sit for my
I'm around
cats.
too many dogs. Y'all heard me.
Dogs are great too.
Yeah, they're
They're all
really
gonna start biting
fun.
your Kira's gonna bite your kneecaps.
Oh my gosh, she's gonna lick the crap out of my kneecap. She loves to lick. And so doesn't Dad get freaked out obviously because this Anna's corpse is like all animated, and then he's like, Pascal is like, yeah, the soil of a man's heart is stonier, and is giving him a lot of like, he's the harbinger of death right now essentially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he
Bringing him a
makes him a
message from the other side.
promise and he says, I'll
Yes.
come to you. And he knows Doc's name. He calls him by name. And
Yeah.
so Doc is like, how do you know my name? Blah blah blah. He's not Dracula, sorry.
Yeah.
But he was confused. We watched Hotel Transylvania recently.
Oh, I love that
And
movie.
the blah blah blah.
Blah 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 blah. It's a cute movies.
I don't say that. They are cute. Um, but yeah, he makes him a promise it'll come back to him. And then he keeps true on his promise because right that night he's going to bed and all of a sudden Pascal's ghost is there.
Yes.
And he's saying, we've got places to go. And at first he like disappears. And so Doc goes back to sleep. But then he gets up right by his face and he's like, I said, get up. Don't make me
Yeah.
say it twice.
Like a drill sergeant.
Yeah, get up.
Uh-huh.
One,
Um,
two.
and he ends up leading him outside into the cemetery.
Yep. And he says, I
Yeah.
want to help you because you tried to help me.
Mm-hmm. And he starts to talk to him and he's trying to warn him and he's telling him that the soil there is sour.
Yeah. Do not
Mm-hmm.
go to the
Along.
place where the dead walk.
Yeah. He's basically just warning him because he's preluding to like, he knows that this land is going to do something to rob, Lewis, and then he's gonna want to then therefore go and bring back to life whatever it is that he wants to bring back to life.
Exactly. And then he wakes up thinking it was all a dream. And then hi there, buddy. He just looks like he's smiling.
He's just like
Um,
on me. Yes. And so what were you saying? Go ahead.
his feet are all covered in mud.
Hmm.
And
Also,
then
how did
he's
his
like,
wife not
I guess
notice
this,
that?
yeah, like in the bed sheets. Like, I
Uh-huh.
don't know, my feet touch Andrew's all the time while I'm sleeping. And
Yeah. I feel like
I
you would
feel like
feel
I would
that.
feel the mud.
The dirt, kind of just little crumbs everywhere. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But movie magic, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. I wrote, cool, they have a laundry chute.
Oh, they really do. Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
They did. I was like,
But
wow, that's so neat.
mhm. And also, but then I also thought, like, I wonder if he's trying to be discreet or anything, but then I'm like, she's gonna see that at some point. She's gonna be like, "What the fuck
What'd you get all
happened?"
in my laundry?
Yeah. And so then that's whenever we end up, I think the family's leaving now because it's the holidays, right? It's Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving time, and Doc is sending the kids off with Rachel to her dad's for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
He is not going because he doesn't get along with the in-laws.
Yeah, they, for some reason, dislike him.
Yeah.
I don't really get
Unless
it.
we never, yeah, really get much explained on it. It's just like a, for some reason, extra side kind of story arc to the character. I guess just so
Yeah.
that way there could be some kind of blow up later, but even then, it doesn't really lead to anything or pay off. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's sending them off. They're leaving without him. And that's whenever we have him back at home. I think just kind of doing home stuff, and then doesn't he take a shower or something? No, that's not yet. My bad. That's not till
Not
later.
yet.
He's a little bad thing. He ends up getting a phone call from Judd that church is dead, isn't he?
Yes. And he's like, I got a cat over here that looks like it might be your cat. And so he comes over and it's poor Churchy. Little
Yeah.
Churchy been hit by a car. And so basically they bag him up in a little trash bag and he's like, I'll bury him in the morning. And then Crandall's like, no, we're gonna go right now. I have something to show you.
Yeah.
And so they go to the pet cemetery and he's like, okay, where are we going to bury her and or him in the middle or something? And then he was like, no, we're going over this and points to this like massive, like beaver dam of wood
That's a really great
thing.
way to describe it. It does look like a beaver dam.
And then he was like, we can't go over that. We'll break our necks.
And he's like, nope, don't worry about it. I know all the places to step. I've done this before. Just follow me.
And then he takes off.
Yeah.
He leaves them in the dust.
He's so far ahead of him, too.
I was like, how is Crandall so spry?
And how would he know where to step?
The whole time he's just, like, way ahead of Doc, and
Oh,
I'm
he's on a
just like,
mission.
"Dude, slow down. Doc is, like, struggling here."
Also, why does Jeff want so badly to bring a cat back from the dead? I mean, we learned that
Yeah.
he just wants Ellie to learn about death and that this is easier, but also still, I feel like
Crandall
Judd,
knew the consequences.
he did. He knew. He's literally done this before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's funny. But anyways,
Church seems to be pretty normal, though, still, other than being a little grumpy.
yeah, yeah. What do you mean? Like after he comes back?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, he
is
doesn't look
that
as cuddly and stuff, but he still seems like he's pretty
like a normal
normal.
cat?
Yeah, just now he scratches
No love, and he stinks. Smells like
and
ass.
it smells like death.
Death becomes she, her, kitty. And so that's whenever what the where he and then Judd tells him that he gets up there, right, and obviously we get to this like really ritualistic looking like circle burial ground situation with little stones stacked on top of each other, as I guess that's what they use to mark the markers as a headstone. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
and also prevent probably animals from digging.
oh, that makes sense. And Judd tells him that he has to bury his own,
Yeah,
right?
he says each
Am I
buries their
skipping?
own,
Yeah.
and he says this is the Micmac Native American burial ground.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and each buries their own. He's like, I'm gonna sit over here and have a smoke.
Yeah.
Like this is up to you
Uh-huh.
to do this. And so he's like has like 3 or 4 cigarettes or something. He's just lighting them back to back as we see the
Mm-hmm.
sun setting. And so they're out there all night. And then they finally make their way back to the house. And after they've buried him finally, and they make their way back to the house, and Doc gets a
Yeah.
phone call.
Yeah. It's
And
ringing in the house. Uh-huh.
yeah,
He's
but he
running to
misses
go get
it.
it. Mm-hmm.
He misses it just ever so slightly, and then Crandall's like, Say not one word about what we did tonight. Don't
Yeah, it's
let
our
them
little
know."
secret,
Yeah.
basically, which is
And
interesting.
then yeah,
Like,
and
why
then
doesn't he
he
want them to
brings
know?
up the soil. Yeah, exactly. And then he brings up the soil of a man's heart is stonier, just like Pascal said, and says that same line. And you can see Doc's in his eyes go kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Look at what?
He's like, that's what the other dude said. It's giving maybe there's some like, underlying stuff happening in the you would know. Wait, does Judd, is he more of a like cause for things in the book, or do you not remember,
I don't remember.
or excuse me? Because it's giving almost like we're just missing some things,
It
or
made me really want to reread this book.
mm-hmm.
Watching it, I was like, hmm.
Because it almost feels like Judd is being like also manipulated by the burial ground place, like more than what it leads on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like to like
because
bring them there.
because then later on, like Pascal says, like it's trying to stop you. Like whenever Rachel has the car accident
Yeah.
and stuff, and so yeah, I
So that
could see
means
that.
that there's like a force happening. Yeah. There's something like supernatural
Yeah,
happening. And so we have yeah, he ends up missing that phone call, but then he calls them back and he starts talking to them. And he's like having a hard time talking to Ellie. Um, and she brings up church and she's like, "Hey, how's church doing?" He's like, "I don't know, I haven't seen him." Um,
and she's like, give kiss a church, give kiss a church, give church a kiss goodnight for me.
and he's like, "Give your own cat a kiss." I
Yeah,
would
he's
have
like,
just been like,
ew.
okay.
Okay, can do,
um,
sweetie.
for real. After you know that the cat is dead. Ow. Um. Ooh,
There's
spicy.
doggies outside.
Yeah. I thought it would be my doggies being the problem.
It's random doggos on the street.
Literally, all these doggies are in there are eating themselves. Oh my gosh. So anyways, we are this episode is gonna be is sponsored by the dogs as well. The amount of times we mentioned them in this episode. Sorry. And so yeah, he brings up oh, this is whenever we have daddy's sexy time, don't we? Because he's trying to take a bath
Uh,
and then
yeah,
he's
we get a little bit more before the bath.
oh, okay, my bad.
Church does come back, and he's grumpy.
Oh, yes, he
He's
does. My bad.
all covered in blood. We can see whenever he tries to feed him. He tries to feed him food on the
Mm-hmm.
porch, and you can see that he's still all covered in blood. And the doc picks him up, and then he scratches Doc on the face,
Yeah.
and then he goes over to Crandall's house and Judd's house and is like, I couldn't believe my eyes. I told myself like that he just wasn't that I buried him alive and stuff, but he's
Mm-hmm.
like, but I know that cat was dead and now he's back. And Judd's like, yep. And then he tells him the story of Ragman and Spot,
Yeah.
um, and tells him about how Ragman did the same thing for him and brought his dog back and made him bury Spot up there. And then Spot came back and and
Something's going on.
then Spot comes back and isn't right. But this is where we get the first mention of if Lewis or Doc says, has anyone ever buried a person up there?
And then he
And
spills the cokes and he's like, "Oh my god, heavens no, who would do that?"
yeah, who would do
Right?
that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly. Real over the top. Um,
Yeah.
but then yes, then he's getting in the bath water and
Mm-hmm.
the bath water looks like piss. It was like yellow. I was like,
Maybe they
what
just
kind of bath bomb did he put in there? Maybe their water is
a
from a
lemon
well,
one. Yeah,
lemon one.
maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's what water looked like back then.
Yeah, it was not, or maybe their tub was really dirty.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
but then,
he was really dirty.
church
Uh,
brings him a rat.
a little gift. Mm-hmm.
A little, aw,
Because
it's a little
everybody wants
present.
a bloody rat.
Bloodied rat thrown into their
Yeah,
bathtub.
very
Ugh,
much so.
I
And
would have lost my mind.
which he does kind of do, and he's yelling at church to like get out, and then he's like trying not to step on the rat that's on the floor, and he's obviously, naked and wet. And then he does end up stepping on the tail of the rat, which is really gross.
Yeah,
But
I was like,
he's
oh,
yeah, he's able to get church out. And then that's whenever I mean, there's not much other reaction other than that. And church is just basically like, haha, bye.
bye.
And then we cut to what I think the next day and the family's getting back. He gets to pick them up from
Yeah.
the airport, which is also a really weird way to pick up people from the airport. Unless they're
Well, it
like,
was the 80s.
is that how they used to do it?
Yeah, you were allowed down to the gate
Oh,
back before
okay.
9/11.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because I used to remember, because my mom was a flight attendant growing up,
Oh, that makes sense.
and we would have to fly by ourselves, like unaccompanied minors,
Mm-hmm.
a lot after my parents divorced to go like see my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that my mom would come all the way down to the gate with us and stuff,
Wow. And just get you
and
on the
then see
plane.
us off. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, so back in the day, you were allowed to do that, but not no more. And so he picks up the kids and Rachel, and Ellie gets right to the point. She's like, "How's church?" And then she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "I had a dream of church being hit by a car and then you burying him." And he's like, "Uh-oh."
Literally.
But
Exactly what happened.
yeah, and then they get home, and uh church, or basically we get Ellie letting church outside, and then she's like, "Go, shoot, you stink." And
Yeah, she smells
she's
like death.
yeah, and she's like, Can cats get shampooed? How much does that cost? Because church smells real bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I'll
assuming
save
like,
up all my money."
oh, she really wants to help out. Like, he must smell really rancid. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
he's got to smell bad.
like, what is that thing when they do to the cat's asshole? When they,
Oh,
they need to do
express their
that.
glands.
They need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Kitty once, I picked her up, like,
Yeah.
and
Did
some
she
of
express
her,
herself on you?
yeah, and it smelled so bad for
Ugh.
it was, and it like, I took shower after shower and I still could, like, I guess it was like saved in my nostrils or something, but I
Where did it get
swear
on
I could
you?
still, it was my arm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Poor thing.
and it was so stinky. But I think I shouldn't have picked her up that way. I was trying to not pick her up like from her underneath her front arms. I was trying to pick her up like this,
Okay.
and I picked her up and she
Yeah, and you
expressed her little
just
booty gland on me.
squished her a little too much. That's all.
It was a
And
little stinky.
um, and then we get we cut to an abrupt death because we cut to Missy unaliving herself. Do we not?
Yeah,
Um, mhm.
basically, and at first I thought it was in their cellar because she,
That's
like,
what I
did their
thought
laundry
too.
and stuff, and then
Yeah,
I was like, "Okay, guess not." But
yeah.
thank God.
Thankfully, yeah. Also, how like
And
what a way to like thank your
yeah,
what you call it, people who give you a job. I don't know. But yeah.
employer.
Employer, there we go. Why couldn't I say that? Anyways, yeah, she ends up unaliving herself, which is pretty wild because and then also like what even was the reason? And like we never even got anything other than that she was sick. Like was she
Yeah,
dying?
she there was a little note that she wrote and like stapled to herself or taped it to
Mhm.
herself, but I couldn't read her handwriting. So I couldn't tell what it said. It looked like it said something about cancer, and
Okay. She
I'm
got
not
the
quite sure.
cancer and she decided
But
to not fight it.
yeah, I
I wonder
think
where she got
I'm
that opinion
thinking
from.
that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then they're at the um
The funeral?
funeral. I almost said
Uh-huh.
hospital. They're at the
Funeral, and
funeral.
we have, Stephen King as the, provide presiding over it. Presiding. And, uh, yeah, I guess it's a good funeral. There's nothing necessarily, um I don't have anything in my notes too much about it. But,
Yeah,
then after
no.
that yeah, then after that is where we get a bigger scene because this is where we have mom and dad together and they're talking, and she, I guess, essentially has a little heart to heart with him and feels vulnerable and decides to tell him, like, why she feels, like, so, you know, put off by like death and like all of that, the funeral, what's been going on. And
Yeah,
this
because
is when,
she couldn't attend because she was throwing up so much, and she had,
yeah,
like, a touch of the flu, they said.
yeah.
And then we get a scene of Ellie and Dad talking about what happens after death,
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
and then we just see her crying,
Yeah, yeah,
kind
yeah.
of in the kitchen, eavesdropping, and then, yeah,
Because
that's when she comes in and she's like, "I heard what you talked about with Ellie." And he
yeah,
was like, "I thought you might have." And then, yeah, then she unloads. She, like, this trauma dump into the max.
yeah, 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 for sure. And it's kind of crazy that he didn't know any of this beforehand, and they've been married. But for a while.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe some family secrets you just bury. Yeah, that's true. And
I
so
mean, I don't think I would necessarily want to admit that I was, like, waiting for someone to die.
yeah,
Like,
or that your family
that
was
we
like
wanted her to die.
basically holding someone in a room like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a backstory of how when she was younger, she had a sister, an older sister named Zelda. I also really love that name. And
Yeah.
Zelda got, was it something meningitis or something
Yeah, spinal
spinal meningitis?
spinnicular meningitis or something.
Yeah, and so essentially she just, needed help from everyone else to take care of her and she was dying and they were doing that, but she was like, I guess just she was just sick for a very long time. And so she's explaining how like, her parents had left her home alone to take care of Zelda and she was trying to feed her, but then Zelda like started to choke and she was thinking like, "Oh no, they're going to think that I murdered her and they're gonna think that I wanted her to die." And then she ends up being like, "But you know what? I did want her to die." And the actress is like going off. It's very hammed up, but she does really good.
Yeah, it felt
Like,
like it was personal.
it really did. It felt like this is all a true story for her. Maybe honestly, maybe it was therapy for her. Maybe she was just like using that for whatever happened in her real life. And then that's whenever we have like
I like the line where she said, "They thought I was crying, but I think maybe I was laughing."
oh yeah.
And I was
And I
like, "Jesus Christ."
I think at that point, that's whenever he's like, "You know what?" In his head, I need to get this chick medicated." Because then he's
"I'm
like, "You
gonna
know
go
what?"
get you a"
He's like, "That's that's all good, honey. You know what? Let's get you a Valium." And she's like, "I don't take Valium." He's like, "Tonight you do."
"Tonight you do. We need to
For
knock you
real.
the fuck out."
For real, because this is nonsense. And then that's whenever we have, another shot of a truck passing by.
Yeah, truck rolling
And
out, playing
uh-huh.
some Ramones.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
that's right. Yeah, because this guy is gonna it's foreshadowing a bit. He plays a major part here in a moment because now the family's outside in the back of the house flying kite, like a picnic style.
Flying a kite. Yeah,
Picnic style.
it looked very picturesque, very,
Oh,
like,
yeah, their
scenic
backyard, like,
little
on the cliff, super cool.
yeah, with
But
the
also, they have a toddler, so were they not also worried about him, like, just waltzing off the fucking cliff?
into the yeah, because there was, like, a body of water behind him too,
Yeah, uh-huh.
and so, like, into the lake or whatever that was. Um, I would be worried, I'm sure they were worried. Um, but yeah, dad's flying the kite, he's doing a fantastic job, it's up in the sky, and then they're like, "Let Gage fly it." So Gage is flying it, and then it slips away from him, and Ellie's like, "You little shit." I forget exactly what she says, but it had the word shit in it.
Yeah, it most definitely did, and they're just laughing at her, and they're just like, "Oh my god, the kids say the darndest things."
This kid.
Yeah,
And, they're not paying attention to how the kite's getting away from Gage and, that Gage is going after the kite.
mhm,
And I really then all of a sudden, Crandall notices that Gage is getting too close to the road, and
yeah,
dad
bolts.
runs after him. Yeah, he's, like,
Mhm.
running full speed. It reminded me of that scene in Get Out whenever the
Oh, yeah,
granddad's, like, charging him. He was
yeah,
running like that fast. And he trips and he misses Gage just by the tiniest bit, and the truck driver wasn't paying attention, and we thankfully don't see it. But I really liked how they portrayed this
Oh yeah.
with the kite coming crashing down. Like all of a sudden the
Right.
kite comes out of the sky and then the little shoe rolls out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Dad
then
just like no in the background. Yeah, it's a pretty cool shot.
yeah, and then we get little flashes of baby photos of Gage
Yeah.
um, coming up, and then they're uh, looking. We are with Doc at the table as he's in a like state of shock,
Mm,
basically, and he's looking over the baby photos of Gage. And Crandall comes in and he says the sedation finally took hold of Rachel, so they had to sedate Rachel, which I imagine if I was in their shoes, I would probably have to be sedated too.
I want to
Um,
throw up at the fact that they literally watched their child get run over in front of them. Huh,
yeah,
like that is like an image they will never be. It's like burned into their head.
yeah, it
That's
has to.
crazy.
I imagine that they must have had nightmares every day of it.
Makes me want to gag. This is why I'm never having kids. I cannot feel responsible or like have that much love for something else and then have it like that's crazy. Anyways,
Ripped away from you.
literally, I'd unalive myself. I had to pull a what's her face, Missy.
Yeah,
And so then we have yeah, mom's asleep, and then I think Ellie's talking to dad at this point because he's like, I don't she's like, I don't want to sleep with mommy anymore. I want to sleep in my bedroom.
mommy keeps
And
stealing all the covers.
mhm. And so then we have the
She says,
funeral
"I'm gonna
happening.
bury this picture
Oh,
until God lets Gage come back,"
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
which was so
Because
sweet. And then
yeah.
she's going on about it, and he goes, "Dad," Doc wakes up, and he's like, Ellie," and then she's like, "Fine," and goes and cries on the couch, and he's like, Crandall's like, "You got to be there for your daughter. She needs you in this time," kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but yeah, then they're at the funeral.
At the
And
funeral,
boy, oh boy, is this an eventful funeral.
I would pay to be at a funeral at this. Not someone that I know, but like just that way I could like be in the back and just like eating a popcorn or
Eat your
something.
popcorn.
It's so crazy. Yeah. Oh Lord. Her dad goes crazy on Lewis. I keep wanting to call him Doug because I think that's his actor's name, right? But yeah. Um Dale is his name, my bad. But he is basically accusing, Lewis of like, where were you when your son was run over by a truck? And I'm just like, he was literally on the ground, like trying to get there
He was
to
trying
him.
to get there, but
Like,
he
where the
tripped.
fuck were
Like,
you, Grandpa?
yeah.
Like, why weren't you there? Anyways, yes, Grandpa unleashes a can of what the fuck on him, and they end up doing the wildest thing, and crashing into the what is it called? A little coffin? A little casket?
Yeah, his little
A cute
casket,
little
because 'cause they're
casket for
in,
the
like, a
baby.
full-on fist fight.
Oh yeah.
They're, like, full-on fist fighting,
Gnarly.
and, yeah, they knock over Gage's little casket, which is so sad. You see his little hand before it closes back again, which I imagine yeah, I mean, the casket was closed, and so it had to have been. I
Yeah.
imagine it couldn't have been a pretty sight.
And
He comes back
oof.
looking surprisingly normal,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then,
considering that I don't wanna even imagine what he was like.
and then all this is happening and the mom is screaming like, Dad, Lewis, no. And then everybody's just like, oh my God. And the mom and the daughter are like crying. And all that's happening. It's a pretty eventful funeral. And then that's whenever we go to I think they're having a conversation with Ellie. And she's talking about how she believes that God can bring Gage back. Sorry. They
Yeah,
decided to
they're
go crazy.
talking yeah. They're talking, and she says, "If God could take it back if he really wanted to, right? If he
Mm,
really, really wanted to." And Doc says, "Yeah, I suppose he can." And all the while knowing what he's thinking of doing.
mhm. He knows what he wants to do immediately. And I think at this point, this is where we see or at least I don't remember. For some reason, I have it in my notes that we see that Church has glowing eyes. Um, I guess it
Oh
was
yeah, I think
a
Church is just sitting there with
mhm.
and looks over and he's like, "Rah."
Yeah, because he's laying on top of mom at this point. Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and then we go to talk to Judd, and this is whenever Judd brings up
Yep.
Timmy
He
boy.
says,
Mhm.
I lied to you before when I said no one had been buried up there. And he said it was at the end of the Second World War. Timmy Baderman um, was coming home from war and got killed.
Mhm.
And his dad couldn't handle that. And he basically that they couldn't get to the like his dad couldn't face the bottom of the truth that basically the person that you put up there is not the person that's going to come back.
Yeah.
It's going to be someone different entirely. Um, and he says he came back and people saw him walking around and just like eating things, and they were
And he
like,
started
"We
attacking
got to get rid
people.
of this abomination." Yeah, and they go. He's like, "We pulled up in my truck, me and some of the other townsfolk, and we just burned his house down." And
Mhm. Uh,
they
the
burn
dad
him.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, because the dad was in there too, and then you just see him that he's like, "No, you can't take my son. He's my son. You whatever, whatever."
Yeah.
And so he basically like ends up dying with the son inside the house. So it's pretty tragic.
Yep. It
Uh-huh.
was,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "Damn, like, y'all just had to go that far, though, to burn the house down, like, y'all couldn't have done
Also,
something a little better."
right? Also, not another moment where Judd is like in the mix, but not trying to be in the mix because he was there, he showed up, but then like you hear his voiceover being like, "Get out of there." Uh to not even to the not the dad, but to the guy, right? He's like, "They're gonna kill you." I don't know. But he's like telling him to get out of there. But I'm like, you're here with the people who are setting the thing on fire.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah. And this is where we cut to I think like the next day, right? And the family is leaving to with the grandma and grandpa.
Yeah,
Uh,
he does say one more thing that I wanted to bring up.
oh
He says
yeah,
the pretty infamous line that sometimes dead is better.
oh yeah.
And then he says the Native Americans stopped using it when the land went sour. So
They knew
he
that.
points out that they knew and they realized that, like, oh shit, this is not chill. So we're not going to keep using it.
Yeah.
Um, and he's basically saying, like, yeah, you shouldn't do this anymore.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're sending Ellie off with Rachel and her parents. And they're all leaving, and Ellie's basically like Ellie's already talking about her little dreams and Pascal and stuff, and saying like, I have this bad feeling, like, Daddy, you need to come with us because I have this feeling you're going to do something real bad, kind of thing.
Like, not your like 5 or whatever, however old she is, like 8-year-old daughter, like just in front of everybody too, out loud.
You're going to do something real bad, Daddy.
You're gonna cheat on mama. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep. You cheating ass bitch.
And then the grandpa gives this fakest ass like apology,
Yeah.
like whenever he's trying to apologize to him, and I don't even remember what he says, but it's basically just like I was having a rough day, my bad. Like that's
Yeah.
essentially what it
Sorry.
is.
Like, I know that we were all feeling a lot that day. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we were.
Yeah.
And then he
It's-
offers his hand and the dad, like, barely takes it. He's like,
yeah,
"Nink."
like when someone is what's the word? Like when they don't like someone. Uh,
Yeah, dismissing him, basically.
very much that.
And, um, then we flash to, like, they send him off, and we flash to Doc coming in and gonna dig up his son in broad daylight, it seems. He's, like, coming into the cemetery
Uh-huh.
with
Uh-huh.
all
Uh-huh.
of the tools, and it's in the middle of the day, and I was like,
Yeah.
nope."
Which she and I'm sure maybe someone probably did see something because at a certain point the cops come and it's nighttime now at this point, so they have like their flashlight going on them, but that's a little bit later, but or no, I guess now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He ends up trying to dig the body, which he does, and he's caressing it. He hides from the cops at one point because they're like are checking the premises. And then at this point,
And he justifies it by saying, because
oh yeah,
Pascal shows up and is saying, like, the barrier was not meant to be crossed. The ground is sour. And he's like, I'll just put him back to sleep. If it goes wrong, like, it'll be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. And then Ellie also has the dream of Pascal warning her that daddy is going to do something real bad. Another one on top of it.
yeah,
And then, yeah, and all the while he's digging up Gage, Rachel's trying to call home because Ellie's in basically hysterics, and the name Pascal rang a bell to her.
mm-hmm.
She was
Because
saying Pascal, but but Pascal, she was like, "Oh,"
it's
and
funny
then
how
like,
it clicked in that moment for her. Her eyes got so wide.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she's running down trying to call him, but he's not picking up the phone. So she calls Judd, and Rachel says that she's coming home. And
Mm-hmm.
Judd's like, "No, wait, don't do that." Um, but yeah, that now, yeah, he's sitting there holding Gage. He's like
Mm-hmm.
caressing him and stuff, like he said, and he's saying it's going to be all right. I swear it's going to be all right. And um, then we flash back to, I think,
The
Rachel,
mom,
right?
yeah, she's on like a plane or whatever, or the airport or something, and she's sitting on a plane, and that's when we,
Well, she
um,
gets a little fever dream first,
yeah,
or
bad
while
dream.
she's on the
Mm-hmm.
plane. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's asleep on the plane. On all the pictures, I forgot she was asleep. I thought
Mm-hmm.
she was in an actual house.
No.
But she's, yeah, all the pictures are askew, and Rachel's having this fever dream of, like, Zelda saying, "Gage and I will get you
Oh,
for
that's right.
letting us die."
And she wakes up from that dream and she's all spooked, and the lady next to her is like, "What?" And then she's like, "Ah," and
Yeah,
then
the lady next
we
door is like, "What is going on?"
judging her harshly, and then we see that Pascal is in a seat behind her, just kind of watching her smiling.
Yeah,
And then that's whenever we do uh cut
and
to
Pascal's, like, helping all
oh,
the while, like, because she needs to, like, rush to the plane to get to make her connection, and
that's right.
Pascal, like, holds the door open. He's like, I wanna do that." And she, like, makes her way in and stuff, and, then we flash back to the dad, where trees are literally falling in his path, trying to block him from going up there to bury
Mhm.
Gage, but he's just like, "Doo, doo, doo," walking around them,
Like everything is
and
trying to stop him, yes.
yeah, the universe is, like, saying, "No, don't do this."
Mhm.
But he doesn't care. I mean, he's grieving,
Oh
and
yeah.
so
He's
he definitely,
overridden by that want of just having his son back.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And then even a big ghost face pops up and tries to stop him. I
Mhm.
don't remember who it was, but someone's big
A
head
ghost, yeah.
was like, "Ooh."
and, and then at the same time that all of this is happening and like he's trying to get back, we're cutting to the mom like racing as well to get back home, um trying to get there so that way she can figure out what's going on. um and at this point, what she had like rented a car to
Mhm.
drive there, and she ends up riding it, but then one of the tires ends up blowing out. So it seems as though like something is trying to stop her from getting there, preventing her from getting there, so that way she can't like save, um, or not even save, but see the situation or stop. At this point, honestly, even if she was to get there, there's nothing she could do because it's already happened. Like Gage has already been buried.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gage
So,
is he hasn't been completely buried yet, he's still on his way up
oh,
there, so
oh, my
I
bad.
guess,
Okay.
but she probably was far enough away that where it wouldn't have mattered,
Yeah.
but whenever the tire explodes, we get another shot of Pascal saying, "It's trying to stop you,"
Uh-huh.
and then we flash to right after that, we flash to the dad finishing the burial and saying,
Mhm.
"Come back to me, Gage. Come back to us." And then we get little baby hands coming up through the rocks.
Mhm, mhm. Toot, toot, toot,
Little
just digging his way out.
little tiny hands. Hello.
Aw, it's giving Kristen Wiig with her
Yeah,
little
I
hands.
wish I had little tiny hands to.
To do that, that'd be cute. They look cute. You would still do the nails too.
I would. Baby nails. Look,
Baby
it's got
nails.
lollipop on it.
Ooh, those are very cute. Oh, I see it even more. Is it 3D or is it like just painted on there?
Yeah, it's 3D.
Ooh, I like that even better.
So is the bow.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I
I think I'm
can't
gonna go tomorrow to get a manicure. I
do
want
it.
to get something done that's cute. And so we have demon zombie Gage baby coming back. And and
Suki's
it's
little
funny
paw just came up over
oh,
the
I missed
table.
it.
Well, it was over. It was over to the side of
Oh,
me. I just saw
yeah.
something rise up, and then it was her little paw. She's acting out the movie.
Is fighting for power. And then that's whenever we have kind of like not I don't know, is it POV or is it like yeah, like POV from Gage's perspective, walking through the house and he ends up going into Doc's bag and getting a scalpel, a knife
Yep.
and he's making like these like, uh, like, laughing noises and, like, really creepy baby noise. You that's perfect. Yeah, do it again.
I can't.
It's oh, that was you have to try again sometime later. And so then, yeah, he's doing all of that. He's making his way oh, and the cat is with him as well.
Yeah, Church is like, something's up with this kid. And then
I'm
Loki,
sticking
I
with
was
it.
like, how did Gage know how to get home?
Yeah, I mean, that's the supernatural part of it, I feel
Supernatural,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And that's whenever we have, d oh, after that oh, yeah, yeah,
Gage
yeah.
is now goes over to Crandall's house.
Uh-huh, he goes over there because he wants to play with Judd.
Yep, and he
He's
says, "Let's play hide and go seek."
mhm.
And Crandall knows something's up, so he's just like going throughout the house with obviously his guard up. And he's like, "Gage," and then he's like, "Come out, I brought you something," trying to coax him out, and it's a knife. Um,
I'm like, not him pulling a switchblade out on a toddler.
I know. And then he goes and kneels down by the bed because he hears Gage's laughter coming from under the bed. But
Mhm.
Jesus fucking Christ, he bent down and he was in his little house slippers, so his
Oh,
heels were exposed, and Gage just slices through it like a fucking slice of cake.
just cuts right
It
through
was
him.
like the show Is It Cake?
Yeah, it's pretty
His
gnarly.
foot was cake that time.
The practical effects were really good right here as well. Really,
Yeah,
really
and
good.
then
Mhm.
after he slices his foot, he's, like, freaking out, obviously, and in
Mhm.
immense amount of pain, and then Gage is like, "Ha ha," slice to his face,
Yeah, and he's really starts fucking him up.
and
'Cause then he starts just stabbing his neck, and then he ends up biting his neck, and he's like vampire mode, I guess, at this point.
yeah,
Zombie
he's like,
mode.
"Ah, nah, nah,
Mm.
nah, nah."
He's like what
Yeah.
is he? He's like a demon zombie monster? Yeah,
Yeah, little demon zombie,
the second
and,
coming.
um, it was like I was just like, "RIP Crandall, that sucks."
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
he gets attacked, and, this is a I mean, at least it's a pretty bang up way for Judd to go out. Bam.
yeah,
He
I know,
gets
it's pretty gnarly.
mhm.
He got
And
a pretty
and
cool death.
and he ends up getting taken out. At this point now, that's when we have Rachel showing up, and she is getting dropped off by a trucker who she had driver, which is also kind of the irony that a trucker killed her child, but she's getting helped by a trucker.
Getting in, yeah.
And that's whenever we have her like she's gonna go to
Pascal
her
saying, "It's the end of the line for me. I
yeah.
can't go any further." So, this is
Oh
the
yeah.
last we're getting Pascal's help for now.
And we have her then going into at first I guess she was gonna go to her place, but for some reason I don't remember why she goes to Judd's house. Is it because the
Yeah,
door's open or something?
She hears Zelda yell Rachel,
Oh, that's what it is.
and
Got it.
then she hears Gage's laughter, and so she's
Mhm.
like, "What's going on?" And then Church is there. Church kinda trying to warn her off, but
Yeah.
or I don't know, he was all bloody too, and it was, like,
He's like
licking blood off his paw, so I was like, "Maybe he helped eat Judd." I don't know.
he's ushering her in.
Yeah,
But
and
also,
then
Church just doesn't give a fuck. It's very cat energy, no matter what.
yeah. And then she gets into the house and she gets up to the room, sees Zelda in there. Zelda's saying, "I'm gonna twist your back so you never get out of bed again." Um, kind of thing. She's having these flashbacks of Zelda, and then she sees Gage and he says, "I brought you something, mommy." And
I
shows
wanna
her the
play.
scalpel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Kills her, I guess.
stabs her. Yeah, I was like, I guess he stabs her? I don't
I
know.
literally wrote in my notes, I was like,
Um,
"Did this child just kill his mother?"
yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty
Which
wild.
he did because it's the next
He did.
morning, and Grandpa
Yep.
calls and he's like, hey, homeboy, did your wife make it home okay?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Is she there? She was supposed to be there." And he's like, "Oh yeah, she's here. She made it here okay." Lying, and then he's like, "Okay, put her on the phone." And he's like, "No, she's asleep." Like all these things.
And he's like, "Well, you better go wake her up because Ellie's in hysterics because she had a dream that her mother was dead."
Like,
And
what
it's
is that?
like,
And then he just hangs up. He's like, "I gotta go
yeah,
now.
he's like, "I
Bye."
gotta go." And then he gets almost out the door when another phone call rings
Mhm.
and he answers it and he's like, "I told you I can't talk right now." And then it's Gage's little voice from Judd's phone saying, "First I played with Judd, then I played with mommy and we had an awful good time. Now I want to play with you."
So creepy. That little baby does
So creepy.
so good at even doing the little creepy baby voice. And then that's whenever we have him going over, of course, to the other house. He enters and immediately, I guess, supernatural again. Like he's having, um, it's like what's the word?
He
It looks
kills
like
Church too.
oh, he goes
Kills
church. That's right.
Church with
Before
me.
going in, yes,
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, that's sad." Church
yeah.
Church really wasn't that bad.
But church needed it's not natural. It's not natural, Caitlin.
I
Church needed to be taken
know.
out. Like
I would have
there's
brought Kitty back if I could have.
and we would have had to taken her back out, and that would have been even more painful.
That's true.
Yeah.
I
Sometimes,
had dreams that she came
sometimes,
back to life.
Caitlin, dead is better.
Is better.
Do
Dun
you
dun
have dreams that she came
dun.
back to life?
Yeah, I had lots of dreams that
Oh,
she came back to life,
oh,
or that like I buried her alive, and that like I had to
that's
like
sad.
go get her out and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was obviously very traumatic for me.
yeah. But it's a
it
baby.
was it was a rough time.
Mm.
Um,
And so he ends up then, putting the church to sleep. Church goes to sleep. It's a pretty. It didn't need to be this like. It's not even graphic is the word, but like this like real. But anyways, church ends up
I
dying.
know we watched church, like, I was like, "Oh my god."
We're just gonna keep
It
going
was
until she has her last breath. Okay, got it. So we're still.
yeah.
And then he ends up going inside, and the house once again is like it looks like the Upside Down to me, you know what I mean? Or, like, not like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
but, like, kind of like, I don't know, like
It was all swampy and
yeah,
moldy and, like,
mhm,
had moss everywhere.
very much that. So I guess, like, death or, like, the burial ground area,
Yeah.
and he is basically going in there to try to find the baby, and I guess Judd, because at this point no, I guess I mean, he doesn't know where his wife is, so I guess he's looking for his wife there too, because he told him that he played with her. But he is going through
Yeah,
there
he
and
saw her bag and her shoe, and so
mhm.
I think that
Oh, I
made
must have
him
been
be
taking a
like
note at that point.
yeah, he saw her
Okay,
bag on the porch and then her shoe,
that makes
and
sense.
he was like, "Okay, Rachel, where are you?" kinda thing.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, they get in there, and then he finds he's looking all around. I think he hears Gage laughing. Um,
Mhm.
and then he finds Judd's body and his face is half gone. And
Yeah. He
I
looks
guess we do get Gage saying, "Hi, Daddy. Now I want to play with you." And Dad's like, "All right, Gage, let's play." Dun dun
mhm.
dun.
Da-na-na-na. And also, when he found Judd's body, Judd looked like already he had been dead for, like, days. He was like, you know? I don't know, like,
Yeah, and
mummified?
his face was like half gone. It looked like he got eaten, like his lower lip and stuff got all
Yeah.
eaten off.
Yeah. And so then that's whenever we have him then coming out of the room that Judd was in, and unfortunately, as he goes into the hallway, right? That's the hallway, yeah. Like an attic door thing falls down, and his wife falls through the ceiling, and she's like hung, strung up.
Y Yeah, she's been hanged, and then little, I almost called him Little Judd. Little Gage is up there like,
Yeah,
very, like, Chucky-esque up
yeah,
there,
very much. And he's
and
like,
is
"Oh, what the freak?"
yeah, and he's like, "Ah!"
Yeah.
And then Gage hops down from the ceiling and is, like, literally trying to eat out,
Hmm.
uh, the heart of
Choice of
sorry,
words.
uh, eat the heart out of, um, his dad.
Yeah.
And, um, and then he's, like, slicing him up with the the
Scalpel.
scalpel, and then finally, Doc is able to throw Gage, and he, like, literally, like, yeets him.
Eats
He
him,
just is
literally, yeah.
chunk chunks him off,
And
and then
even Gage is like, "Mm, well, I'm gonna
yeah.
eat."
It
Yeah.
was pretty funny. And then, uh, Gage, he Doc is says, "Come here, Gage," and Gage comes over to him, and he's, like, laughing and then also, like,
Yeah.
growling at the same time, and then he just injects him in the neck, and little Gage starts crying. He's like,
Mhm.
"No,
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, "It's not fair. It's not fair." Ooh.
no fair," and then he
Uh-huh.
falls, and he goes out with a few little more growls, and then he's, put to sleep.
Yeah,
And
essentially.
then he, I guess, just decides to cover all up what happened in that house and burns it down.
As one would. Just I guess
And
he
I
took
was like,
inspiration from Judd's story.
yeah, that's what all I could think of too. And I was like, but damn, just rebury your son. Like, don't do him like that. That's fucking rough.
Yeah. But unfortunately, immediately we see that his mind is not even like thinking about any of that because he wants to go and take his wife to go get buried in the burial ground.
Yep. He says it'll work this time because she just died a little while ago. And
Hmm.
Pascal's like, no,
Yeah. He's like,
don't
I
go
thought we learned our
there.
lesson.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he walks off towards the cemetery, and we get a little voiceover from Judd saying, like, the I think he says the heart of a man is that line again. And then he
Yeah.
also says, like, you you buy what you own, and what you own always comes home to you, kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then a bell starts tolling
Hmm.
as he lays out some cards, and then Rachel walks through the door looking pretty damn rough.
Yep. Pretty
And
cut up, pretty bloody.
then they just start, he's
Making
like,
out.
yeah, she stands up, and there's, like, shit leaking from her eye, and I was like, "Ugh."
Yeah, it was
It
pretty
was so
gross.
gross looking, because her one eye was, like, all stabbed out,
Yeah.
gouged out,
And it's like
basically.
it was squirting.
Yeah, it was, and I was like, "This is nasty."
Yeah.
Um, but then we see that there's a knife on the table behind her, and she stabs him, and we end with Doc's scream.
Ah.
"Ah!"
Ah! Essentially like that.
Hire us to
Yeah.
be in your next movie.
Scream queens and a scream king.
Yep.
And so yeah, that is the end of Pet Cemetery.
1989's Pet Sematary,
1989 came
written by
out.
Stephen King, directed by Mary Lambert.
It came out, yeah. About 5 years before, yeah. 89, about 5 years before we were born, right?
Yep.
If I'm mathing, I'm like, I can't even do that simple math. Yeah, wow. Um, yeah, that's crazy. It was pretty good, honestly. It was a pretty good film. I thought it had some good moments. I've like seen it before, but like a long time ago, like when it used to like when stuff comes on AMC and like TV and stuff when you're home, like
Oh,
back in the
yeah.
day. Yeah. So like, you know, I'd be watching that, and then it'd go to commercial, so I'd flip to another channel, and then that'd go to commercial, so you come back, so that movie's, like, maybe, like, 2 minutes in, and you miss, like, things that happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how my experience in watching it in the past was. So I knew, like, I didn't, like, get the full scope of it. So it was pretty good. I thought that, you know what? Indian Burial Ground, put a body in it, comes back reanimated. It's not like it's unfamiliar territory, but the story's pretty cute. I like how we tie in how it's like Pet Cemetery, but really it's not even having to do with the pets. We're bringing back his son eventually, and like how the escalation of like, well, if people would do this, then they would essentially do this next, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. And I'm sure the book has a lot more to do with that, and with the Windy Boy. That seems like pretty interesting. I wonder how or what that has to do with it, because I don't know anything about the book. Um, I think that everybody's acting was pretty decent, literally except for Lewis. Like Lewis at times was kind of giving me just like no, like nothing, like just yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh. Like, I don't know. And his reactions. But everyone else was like seemed like, because everyone else just seemed like times 10. The only time Lewis was times 10 to me most of the time was like when he was screaming no, like whenever Gage got hit. But like Rachel and even the little girl, even little Gage, he was acting for his life there.
yeah, he was.
Trying to secure his next roles, which he did. And yeah, I thought the practical effects were pretty cool whenever like uh Gage ended up slicing his Achilles heel and then slicing up his lips and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool for um it being like, and also believable, I guess, in a way, also because it's a little kid. So it's even like when you watch Chucky sometimes I'm like, why can't they just kick him? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there's like a supernatural force behind him, I guess. And I thought it was pretty, honestly, this movie is pretty what's the word? Like it kind of went there in terms of like Missy just unaliving herself for no damn reason in the middle for the most part. And then like um the cat getting hit and how detailed they were about how it looked and stuff, like they just kind of went there. Even the little boy getting hit, because these are all pretty like serious topics, they're pretty heavy. I'm sure a lot of people can
Yeah.
have a lot of trauma that's connected to this type of situations and stuff, but it was still kind of done tastefully, especially like when you said whenever Gage got hit by the car or the truck, and how they just kind of showed us, the more or less like the pictures of a life and not the life that was gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we get all those beautiful shots of him with his family, and they're like, his dad is reminiscing. And yeah, overall, I'd say I would give it a 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5. Yeah, it's a 3.5. Yeah. Um. Oh. Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. Go for it. What's your boo rating?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you some
Oh,
fun
fun
facts
facts.
first.
Yes.
If you couldn't tell, the role of Zelda, Rachel's terminally ill sister, was played by a man. Director Mary Lambert wanted Zelda and her scenes to frighten the audience, but did not believe that a 13-year-old girl was scary, so she cast Andrew Hubatsek in the role to make something
Hoobastank?
off about Zelda. I know, I almost said Hubastank, and then I was like, nope, Hubatsek. Hubatsek.
Beats me.
Stephen King once mentioned that the only novel he wrote that really scared him was Pet Cemetery.
Oh, wow.
And
I wonder
then,
why.
yeah, I don't know. Stephen King is a big fan of the Ramones and referenced some of their songs in the novel Pet Cemetery. So, in order to pay a little homage to that, the Ramones wrote and performed the theme song Pet Cemetery, which is featured in the film's closing credits. And the truck driver was also listening to Sheena is a Punk Rocker by the Ramones.
That's cool.
So, that is cool. We just bought a Ramones record for Record Store Day. They had a special one for Record Store Day, and we got it.
I don't know that I've ever heard a Ramones song. I don't know who that is.
You know, hey, oh, let's go.
Let's go. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Oh,
Kinda.
that's not even it at all. Yes, I know that song.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Bam-bam-bam-bam.
Oh yeah,
Blitzkrieg
and
Bop.
then the
That's the
Blitzkrieg.
Ramones.
It's the Blitzkrieg Bop.
Blitzkrieg means lightning war in German.
Oh, okay. It's the Blitzkrieg Rock.
Blitzkrieg Bop.
Bop. Okay.
Yeah, like a bop.
Okay. I do know that song.
So
they
you have heard a
British?
Ramones song? I think so.
Okay.
They seem like they
British.
would be. I don't really know.
Give me like British punk.
Yeah, exactly. The original screenplay featured the Wendigo, a Native American demon that was mentioned in the novel, but it was ultimately cut from the film. Its presence is implied only twice. First, in the scene where Lewis is walking through the woods at night and hears something large knock down a tree, and second, when Judd first takes Lewis up to the Indian burial ground. There's some kind of loud crash deep in the forest, followed by a long, almost feminine howl. Judd says that it's only a loon, but it's clear that he does not entirely believe it himself.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then the film was shot on location in the same rural Maine area that Stephen King set the novel, Pet Sematary. So they kept it pretty
Surreal.
close to home.
Realistic. Mm-hmm.
And then, as we already mentioned, Stephen King was a minister at the funeral. So that's my trivia. So in my boo rating, well, Pet Sematary is pretty nostalgic to me. So I think I'm going to have to go with a 4. I think the film itself held up really well. Like a lot of the practical effects and stuff were pretty nasty and convincing. It didn't really feel like I was watching a movie from the 80s, or late 80s, early 90s. But it just did a really good job of, standing the test of time. So I got to give it props for that. And then I thought all the actors were super believable. I didn't have an issue with Lewis at any point. The time when he wasn't giving much, I just thought he was in shock.
Okay. That's fair.
Like after Gage's death and stuff. So, but maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. But he didn't seem to bother me. And then I think it's a brilliant story. I think like you said, the idea of it is not completely uncharted territory, but it was pretty new for its time. And I think it did a really good job of like sticking to the novel enough. Of course, again, I don't really remember the novel too much, but it makes me want to reread it.
Do it.
I don't think I have it. I think I have The Shining and Christine or something. Yeah. I think overall, it was a really awesome film that has stood the test of time. And again, it's probably one of the like first real scary movies that I saw. And again, one of my first introductions into horror in a literature basis. So it is really cool for me to get to watch this film again after not having seen it in so long and stuff. And I think it just did a really solid job. And I think it was a great movie for its time. And I think it's still a great movie today.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it was solid. I think that like a lot of stuff that's based off of novels, it usually holds up because it's got a good foundation to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
most of the time.
Again, the practical effects really blew me away in this film. I thought they were really good.
Would you say that the only negative thing is that fact that it has dead kitties?
Yes. That part is very sad to me, and I don't like it.
Why couldn't we have used a dog?
That would have been sad too.
It could have been an armadillo. No. A
goldfish.
Goldfish. Can you imagine zombie goldfish?
It just like flops its way back.
Rawr, rawr. It barks. But yes, you guys, those are our boo ratings. So if we've got a 4 and a 3.5, that makes it a 3.875.
Yeah,
That's my math.
And
math.
as always, we are being hosted by the lovely Rogue Media Network Studios. They always take great care of us.
They do.
And they have a bunch of awesome podcasts, and you can listen to them all in one central place, which is
At roguemedianetwork.com.
And then if you want to listen to them or us, you can find us on a slew of podcasting platforms. The biggest two would be
Spotify.
And also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And tell your friends, make Boobay's friends.
Make Boobay's friends. Boobay's friends, and then tell those friends to tell those friends. Yes.
And then everyone then will take over the world.
Yay. It's a cult.
It is
and
a cult.
We are your leaders.
Yes, I would join our cult.
I would too. I feel like we would be very nice and like take care of people.
They would just have a bunch of cats and dogs.
I feel like eventually our cult, like we would get overthrown because we're too nice. And then our cult would become like this.
We'd be like, oh, sorry.
The cult would become like this monster that's not even what we intended it to even have been.
We just wanted it to be a nice cat loving place.
Yeah.
Right, Goopy. Goopy's just looking at me. But yeah, tell your friends and then you can call them your boobay. That's what we do. We call each other boobay.
It's really cute. It's fun.
It is. And
we're not gatekeeping it.
We're not. So call your friends boobays.
Yeah.
And then if you want to reach out to us, let us know your thoughts on Pet Sematary or what we're covering next, which is, I don't remember, but
I'll have to look it up. Yes.
We'll look it up. So if you want to let us know your thoughts on Pet Sematary, you can do so by reaching out to us on our one social media platform, and that is Instagram, and that is at
Boobays Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES, because we're your boobays, not your boobabes. That's right.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
And but yeah, we're gonna look it up and we'll tell you at another point in time. We don't have to tell them right now.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes
they'll just figure out. Yeah, sometimes it'll change. We try to stick to a schedule, but congratulations to Ryan and Megan, the guest that we wanted to have on the show.
They have a baby
for the Night of the Living Dead. Yes, it was Ryan, but all of a sudden, well, it was kind of a sad circumstance, but they had to have an emergency C-section, and they welcomed their baby boy into the world. So that's pretty awesome. So now Ryan's a dad. So hopefully we'll get to have him as a guest because he's like the know-it-all when it comes to Romero. His dog was literally named Marrow after George Romero. So he is the biggest fan, and we want to make sure that we can do it with someone who actually knows all the
details
stuff behind, details and stuff, so we don't do such a classic a disservice
like we usually do.
Yep.
But yeah, next I'm looking at our stuff, and next month I have sci-fi horror, so a lot of kind of like
this rounds out our month of zombie horror.
This does. We had to kind of shift it around a little bit because some things didn't work, and we're going to be covering the Night of the Living Dead as well at some other point. We'll just toss it in at some point, just whenever Ryan's available. We'll see. But until then, is there anything else, Boopay, that we need to add?
No.
So then I guess until then, bye bays.
Bye bays.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.